Hi everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done anything gameplay related, and since then we've had a BNR where Bonds of Agony, along with other cards, were banned, and so Arachne Marionette or Mario has changed quite a bit since then. And in this video, I just wanted to talk about some of those changes, and basically talk about where Mario is right now at this point in the game. So yeah, I'll be sharing three lists with you guys, two of which are like standards or the different directions where Mario's going right now, and one being my list or the list that I'm playing basically. So, yeah, with all that said, let's head on to February. So the first list that I wanted to share with you guys is Kashy's Wario list, and it's Wario because it's Mario basically cosplaying a warrior. And this deck is uh dagger focused or heavily dagger focused. So you'll see the standard front pumps in cut from the same cloth. You've got your up sticks and run, and of course your power card, Savor Bloodshed. But you'll apart from that, you'll also see much more dagger reactions like scar tissue to the point and your tarantula toxins. Of course, that's a staple in Mario. But yeah, you'll see more dagger oriented cards in a way. You'll also see less of your stealths. For example, we only have two blue stealths here, namely Mark of the Black Widow and Persuasive Prognosis, and we don't exactly have any. I mean, we're not running like Take Up the Mantle or just a Nyx to boost up these blues. So, for the most part, they're there for pitch, and yeah, you're not really disrupting your opponents much with, let's say, Persuasive Prognosis, right? So, I guess you could say that this build sacrifices some of the disruption for more numbers or better numbers with your daggers. And that's why, again, it's a warrior cosplay, basically. It's a fun, intuitive build, I would say. Uh, that's very difficult to block for your opponents, especially when they're low. Because you got, again, those different pumps, so you never know when a graphene could just graphene for one could then suddenly come in for 15 or 14 or something like that, right? And then you have the threat of your tarantula toxins where you could just shred something if they block incorrectly. So it's a very, again, intuitive build, which I think is easier to pick up in a way because you really just focus on presenting the best numbers that you can each turn. But it can get hairy sometimes, I think, especially with the lack of blues, especially when you're just starting out playing the deck. You might be used to more blues and more yellows. As if you notice here, main board, we only have 15 blues, 3 yellows. We do have 2 more yellows on the sideboard, but it only comes into play versus certain matchups. So you might find yourself with all red hands, but once you get comfortable to use it or pitching reds to graphene, I feel like you learn to, or yeah, you learn to like the deck basically. So yeah, again, more heavily dagger focused and less disruption for better numbers overall. Uh, that's the Wario list right there. And I'll share the link in the description. So if you want to try it out, you can. But yeah, that's one direction that Mario has gone to. The next one is a more disruptive list. So we're going from one side of the spectrum to another. And this one here is Dan's list from the Runaways. He has a Metafy course on this list. So this is just a copy of the list without the sideboard and all that. And yeah, this is again more disruption heavy. If we look at the list, we don't have the dagger pumps, or I mean, sorry, the dagger reactions like scar tissue and to the point. We do keep some of the pumps, for example, like cut from the same cloth, up sticks, and of course Saber Bloodshed. As these are 044s, right? They're very good cards, very good value. So we keep those, but again, no dagger reacts. Instead, though, we do run just a Nyx still. We also run Take Up the Mantle, Shreds, and then more stealth attacks. Well, yeah, we have 3 or 4 different stealth cards here, namely Reaper's Call, Persuasive Prognosis, Mark of the Black Widow, Art of Desire Mind. So we do open ourselves up for more disruption, more disruptive combos. So, for example, with Persuasive Prognosis, Just a Nick, and stuff like that. Like basically the typical assassin gameplay that we've come to know. Uh, in of course, I failed to mention we also have one copy of Infiltrate. Again, another stealth attack that's meant to disrupt your opponents. And basically the idea of this deck, again, is compared to Wario, it does significant it does present less numbers in a way. So the idea of this deck is to value out, or basically play value until you find your disruptive hand, and then use that hand to prevent your opponent from swinging back on his turn, and then just snowball disruption from then on. So, for example, you get a prognosis turn, you take cards off your opponent's hand, disrupt them, force them to block, and then come up with, for example, Codex Leave No Witnesses turn next turn, and you just snowball, disrupt until you kill your opponent. It's a, personally, I would say, it's a deck that I prefer compared to Wario, in the sense that I built Assassin, or play the Assassin class because I want the disruptive gameplay, but I feel like it's much more difficult to execute, especially since you rely on mini combo still similar to Wario, but I feel like it's been difficult to, well, at least with the games that I played, I feel like it's been difficult to play just a Nick in a way, given the amount of stealths available. So you kind of have to line them up if you're able to, as they sometimes don't come naturally. And a lot of the games, I feel like I've been just forced to block with just a Nick. But I guess I'm not a professional. Maybe that's just skill issue, and perhaps you could do better with this type of list. Um, but yeah, I really like this list, but I feel like it's much more difficult to play, at least personally. So I like the concept, but yeah. Also, while playing this list, sometimes I just end up missing scar tissues, for example, like that, because I do want the number still. So the list that I made, basically leading up, that's basically where this is leading, is a mixture of both. So I'm not gonna claim that this is my list, but this is the list that I'm playing right now. It's basically modeled on Tam's, I forgot the name of this, but basically Tam's older list that I played in Nats. And I just changed a few cards here and then. For example, I added Death Touch, removed one CNC, and then just added the different blues that I wanted. So I added a few more. Uh, we have Art of Disarmament, have Bonds of Attraction here. We have Orb Weaver Spinneret still, just to be more consistent with the dagger plan. But then I also have the same cards that are found in Dan's Disruptive list. But again, while his runs only 11 of these blues, I do run 17. Well, let's say 14 stealth blues. So it just means that there are more targets for Nick. So honestly, I probably could play one more just a Nick. But yeah, this has been, I guess, what I've been comfortable playing with. So yeah, it's just that. But just a disclaimer, I'm not a professional by any means, so their lists are probably better than mine. Again, this is just something that I've grown to be comfortable playing, and with the higher number of blues, I feel like I have more targets for Justin Nick and take up the mantle, while at the same time I am also flexible in a way with my dagger buffs and pumps, or sorry, my pumps and reactions, that I can also present numbers while also being able to just present disruption. So it kind of provides a balance from both sides. I'm kind of in the middle of the spectrum if you think about it. And basically my thought is just that if it's a slower matchup, for example, like if we're playing Florian or any Guardian, I could lean more heavily into the daggers. Whereas if I am playing Osilio or Syndra, for example, that's when I then uh, try to disrupt or my opponent as much as possible. So kind of just balanced, or kind of in between the two. But yeah, Again, I'm sharing all these lists in the description below. So if you're interested in trying any of them out, feel free to do so. And if you have any feedback, especially when it comes to my list, do let me know because I'm just here trying to improve and yeah, basically trying to learn Mario the best that I could. So yeah, leave any feedback in the comments. In any case, overall, I think Mario is still a decent choice. I don't, while I feel like Mario did lose some power level with the bonds banning, I feel like the decks or the heroes adaptable enough to still be a reasonable choice for tournaments even. I'm not sure what its place in the meta will be since I don't exactly know where the meta is heading right now with Super Slam. But again, I feel like it's still a good choice regardless. And I think it's the best assassin right now. So if you're still interested in playing the class, then I think Mario's the way to go. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, leave me any feedback. Hope you enjoyed this one. It's a different type of video. So let me know if I'm doing this well. But yeah, thanks for watching as usual and see you guys in the next one. Bye.